watching FRCD on CAN TV. Hi, my name is Paula Wills and you're watching FRCD on CAN TV. We are Family Resource Center on Disabilities, Parent Training and Information Center. You can reach us at 312-939-3513. You can visit our website at www.frcd.org, and you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter at FRCDPTI. You can also find us on YouTube at FRCD 1231. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is not a law firm or a legal service agency. And as I've mentioned, we're FRCD on CAN TV, where we discuss special education, parent advocacy, and resources for families of children with disabilities. And today, we're discussing what exactly do we do at Family Resource Center on Disabilities. So if you've tuned in the past, you may have noticed that we've had discussions from various organizations, special disability organizations, about their resources. We've talked about tips and tricks for your special needs child who's returning to school. We've also even talked about bullying and how families of children with disabilities who are being bullied in school can approach that with their school system or with their principal or teachers in a manner where you can get results. But today we're going to discuss a little bit about exactly who we are and what we do. So as I mentioned in the title, Family Resource Center on Disabilities is a parent training information center. And basically, we're really just an army of parents helping parents. Most of our staff are parents of children with disabilities, and in many cases, their children have gone through the very same education system that your children are going through. Obviously, things have changed over the years, but the law has not changed that much. That being said, how do we help families of children with disabilities? So a way we do that is we do that through workshops, webinars, and we do that also through referrals. So we provide workshops on various topics such as, sorry, got ahead of myself. We provide workshops on various topics such as the special education process, which we refer to as 6 principles of IDEA. We also discuss the IEP process, how families can better advocate for their children in the IEP, as well as what is in the actual IEP. How do you know if your child's IEP is appropriate? So we go through those types of things with families. We actually hold training sessions over that, that talk about that. We talk about IDEA and discipline. There are some myths about students who have disabilities and may have an IEP and how discipline is dealt with them. So we have a whole training around that, helping parents understand their child's rights. We have trainings on behavioral intervention. And we also hold trainings on transitioning out of out of the education system. And then we also have a training that is near and dear to my heart, which is the parent advocacy leadership training, which encompasses all aspects of special education. That particular one is 8 sessions long, but all of this is mainly to empower you to better advocate for your child, because as a parent, as a guardian, caregiver, you are your child's best advocate. And so all of the things that we do is really to help empower you. One particular thing that we also do is we provide one-on-one assistance. So let's say you're getting pushback from the school. Let's say you're having issues with Maybe it's a particular service that you feel your child needs, or there's a service you feel that your child doesn't need. Maybe you're concerned about what's going to happen to your child once they graduate, and you're looking at the IEP and it's not necessarily measuring up. Our parent trainers are happy to sit down and go through your child's IEP with you, discuss options, and help you brainstorm ways where you can work with the IEP team to ensure that your child is receiving their free, appropriate public education that they're entitled to. But I do want to back up a little bit because I did get ahead of myself. I often go right into our services. But a little bit about Family Resource Center on Disabilities. We were a small grassroots organization. It really started with a couple of parents at a kitchen table who felt that students should be educated. Students with disabilities should be educated alongside or with, or at least educated alongside their non-disabled peers. And for those of you who don't know, prior to 1969, children weren't entitled to a free, appropriate public education. There were some schools that were geared towards specific disabilities, but overall, it was not an entitlement. Some kids, there were children who never went to school, who stayed home throughout their childhood into adulthood. So the law changed, and the law that we got from these parents sitting at this kitchen table is IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It wasn't originally called. It was originally called, I believe, the Handicapped Act, and I think it passed in 1977. Don't quote me on that. But from all of that, from their time and energy, we got the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And Family Resource Center on Disabilities was actually one of the pilot parent training and information centers that was one of the first ones to assist parents in a manner that we assist parents today. And that's helping them understand their rights, helping them understand the law, and making sure parents can advocate for their children in the school system. So a little bit about our mission. What we seek to do is improve special education services for all children with disabilities and their families. We recognize that even though our focus is education, families aren't just dealing with school. Sometimes, families are dealing with work. They're dealing with may have other children who are non-disabled. Sometimes their crises happen. Sometimes families are homeless. So what we try to do is, while we recognize that special education, that is our focus, that is our mission, but we try to help families also connect to other services, and as much as possible, we try to partner with other organizations that can help families also meet other needs, because even though education is an extremely important part of a child's life, sometimes parents are in crisis mode. They're living in the moment, so they may not necessarily be able to put as much focus on that IEP as they would like to. Especially if they're facing eviction or other issues. So we try to connect families with other organizations that help specialize in other areas that we do not specialize in. But overall, we do, try to improve the special education services for children. We educate parents on their children's rights in the special education system. We provide parents self-advocacy. We train parents to be leaders in their own community. And this is a really interesting one because parents often help naturally, organically help other parents when they learn something about the school system. So like for example, if a mom or dad, they manage to win a battle or a small battle or achieve something for their child in the special education services, they automatically tell other parents. Like, for example, we often tell parents, don't request what's best for your child, request what's appropriate. Why? Because appropriate is in the law. It's in the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act doesn't provide what's best for your child. It provides what's appropriate. So often parents may provide that tidbit to another parent, especially if a parent is trying to ask for a service, because often people say, I want what's best for my child, which makes all the sense in the world, but it's not what's in the law. And parents organically share information and things that they learn that have worked with other parents all the time. So one of the programs that I was talking about, the Parent Advocacy Leadership Program, we want to make sure when parents are sharing information, they're sharing the correct information. So we have a whole 8-series training that we offer at least once a year in English and in Spanish for families to learn about the ins and outs of the special education system, what their rights are, and often these parents go on to help other families. And that brings us back to an army of people helping people, which is what we try to build here at Family Resource Center on Disabilities. We also talk about advocate for effective and positive systems change and policymaking agencies which impact children with disabilities and their families. That is a mouthful. What does that mean? So when we're talking about systems, this goes beyond the school system, because ultimately IDEA is what you make it. Right now that is the law of the land. However, if they were to reauthorize IDEA, is there something about IDEA you would like to change? Like, for example, in the state of Illinois, transition starts at 14 and a half. The federal law says it has to start by 16. Well, if they were to reauthorize IDEA, maybe parents might get together and say, you know what, it should be the federal law everywhere that transition starts at 13. That's just an example. That's actually not happening, but that is an example. So what does that mean? So that means rather than waiting till the middle of a student's freshman year to start preparing them for when they complete high school and go off to adulthood, they would start earlier, and maybe in the 8th grade or maybe at the beginning of that freshman year. So why would something like that matter? The more time children have to prepare, sometimes to prepare for prepare for life after high school, that might improve their chances on gaining competitive employment, gaining more community, learning how to navigate the community, possibly gaining a housing situation that they feel good about. And again, we do recognize that every situation is different for all children. So not every student is going to necessarily go off to get a job. Some students may not go off to go to college. Some students may spend, their adult years in the day program. So it looks a lot, it looks different, and that's one of the reasons why the IEP is individualized. So in talking about reauthorization, that's something that families can kind of look at, like what is something that's going to benefit all of us. So that's one of the reasons why we include the policy making, because it really comes from the parents. It comes from people who are living and experiencing the education system as it's happening. And when these changes are made, you definitely want your voice heard. You want to, you don't necessarily want these decisions to be made by someone whose children who may have little knowledge of the special education system, or they may not have necessarily gone through had a child go through that system, or maybe there might be have different circumstances that, where they might, it could be a financial issue. So the things is like as much as possible, parents of all walks of life's voices need to be heard, and they need to be included when policy is being written and changed. So while that is not something that we focus on, we do recognize that parents understanding how the special education system works can be very beneficial if such a event was to happen, a reauthorization of IDEA. So that is another motivation of ours to make sure that parents understand their rights. And then minority outreach to reach and serve underserved minority populations. So sometimes, you don't know what you don't know, and depending on, the situation, minorities, it's been known that minorities don't necessarily have access or maybe necessarily the same tools as non-minorities do. So we do try to outreach out to people of various races, colors, orientations, to make sure that everybody is, understanding what the rights are under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So, parent training and information centers. So there is at least one of us in every U.S. territory. In the state of Illinois, there are two. There's Family Resource Center on Disabilities that serve 8 northern counties, which I will name shortly. And then we have Family Matters, who serves the rest of the state. I should also point out that Parent Training Information Centers receive funding from the Office of Special Education programs. So we are federally funded. And it is written into IDEA that there be a Parent Training Information Center at least one in every U.S. territory. Now, who do we serve? So this is our service area: McHenry, Lake, Cook, DuPage, Kane, Kendall, Will, and Grundy County. Typically, many people think that we just serve Cook County, but no, we serve the surrounding counties. So if anyone were to call us, especially if you're from this county, one of our parent trainers can sit down and go over your concerns with you. But let's say you're not from any of these counties. Let's say you're from Sangamon County. Then what we would do is we would direct you to Family Matters, who does pretty much everything that we do. And they can go through your rights and answer questions and concerns that you may be experiencing at your school district. But let's say you don't even live in Illinois, which most likely you're probably not even watching this show, but just for sake of conversation, let's say you live in California. What do? So if you are outside of Illinois, then we would connect you with your Parent Training and Information Center in California, because again, there's at least one of us, one PTI in every U.S. territory. So they're doing what we're doing all over the country, and that's training parents to understand their rights in the special education system. That being said, we provide training in English and in Spanish. We have 6 principles of IDEA in English, and we also have 6 principles of IDEA in Spanish. Several of our staff are bilingual in Spanish, French, and Arabic. But let's say none of those languages, you don't fall under any of those languages. Let's say you speak Mandarin. Then what we would do is we would connect with a language line and try to help get your needs addressed. But definitely on staff, we do cover those languages. But either way, we will still work with you. Or work with a family that you're trying to help support. Now, even though we are focused on training parents, we also provide training to professionals. We have provided training to youth, and, people, advocates, supporters of the special education community. So so basically we train everybody, anybody who wants to understand IDEA, special education rights, we're happy to train you and your group. Which brings me to my next point, speaker request. So while, actually I can go here. So while we offer trainings mainly virtually via webinar, we do some in-person trainings. We're starting to do those again. You can request one of our parent trainers to come speak to your group free of charge. And I should also point, all of our services are free. So if you call, you have a question, it's all free. So let's say you have a group of parents who just want to learn about their children's rights in the special education system. If you have a group of 9 parents or more, one of our parent trainers will come out and train your group. We again, we have a menu of topics, and we can speak on those topics, whatever your group is looking for in terms of special education. Things that we don't get into, we don't necessarily go into Social Security, even though the topic does come up in transition. We don't. We will give information about due process, but we don't necessarily attend due process hearings. We don't get into clinical referrals and things of that nature, simply because that's beyond our scope of practice. We're not attorneys, and I think I may have mentioned that when we started the show. We are not attorneys. We don't act as attorneys. We don't write documents on your behalf. But what we will do is we will sit down with you and help you write. You write the letter, and we'll look that letter over. We can, provide input on that letter. Sometimes the letters may be, more long-winded than they need to be, or maybe there's things that are missing from, vital information that's missing from the letter. And we can, we're happy to look those letters over, and so that you can provide that to the school district for whatever you're requesting. Because one of the things that we really point out at Family Resource Center on Disabilities is that if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. So that being said, we often tell parents that you want to write everything down. If possible, send it via certified letter, although many cases people will send emails. We say certified letter because that's what's written into IDEA. Right now the law has not caught up to technology, but families do send emails, and depending on the situation, what we've heard is that those emails have been included, in when more serious matters arrive, such as a due process. So, but we do often tell parents put everything in writing, which is going back to us looking over those letters. We also, and this kind of goes right into IEP support. So I mentioned earlier that we will go through your child's IEP with you. In some cases, we may attend IEP meetings depending on availability and need. But that's really not our goal here at Family Resource Center on Disabilities. What our goal is for you to be your child's advocate. Why? Because you as the parent or the guardian are your child's best advocate. That being said, you know what your child needs. You are already looking at their future. You're imagining what it's going to look like when they graduate. So what I put in an IEP, or what I suggest should be in an IEP, may not necessarily be in alignment with where you and your child see them in the future. So that's why it is always important, you as a parent, as a guardian, as a caregiver, a dedicated caregiver, understand your child's rights. Because once special education, FAPE, free appropriate public education, that is an entitlement. Your child is entitled to that. However, once they graduate, they take a diploma or they age out, they are no longer entitled to a free, appropriate public education. So your child will still, be eligible for services, but it's going to look a lot different. So you really want to make the most of your time and years here, now, as opposed to, waiting and finding out. So parents who understand their rights, what, a child's supposed to have, what's possible for them, that's appropriate, the better. So I want to talk a little bit about our parent advocacy leadership training. As I pointed out earlier, this is a training that we put on at least once a year. We have had organizations request that we provide this training, and I mentioned that it's 8 sessions long. But typically, this training, again, 8 sessions long, and it's 2.5 hours per session. It requires, we require that pre and post survey to kind of gauge your knowledge. And we do ask that families, participants, do homework. And the homework isn't necessarily complicated. It's more about knowing when and how to access the information. So you're not going to be writing papers or anything like that. Basically, it's basically resources and you knowing where to go and find those resources. So we don't want homework to be to scare anybody away, but it's really just to kind of, because you can learn a lot of information at once, and then when you need it, you can forget it, or you might remember tidbits of it. But if you know where to find the information, that's even more powerful. So we want to make sure that parents understand how to find information that they're looking for when they need it, especially when they're advocating for their children. Now, who is the parent advocacy leadership training for? We say that ideal for parents supporting other parents in special education system. Sometimes you might be in a battle with your child's school, and we can certainly help you with that. But if it's and we do encourage you to take the training, but you may not necessarily be able to focus on all of the content if you're necessarily focused on one aspect of your child in a situation that just may be happening. But we do encourage families to take the training if you feel it is right for you, and we do provide certificates for that training. So as we come down to our last 30 seconds, I want to thank you for joining me today and learning about Family Resource Center on Disability and its services. If you ever have a question about how to connect with us, and if you need help in regards to advocating for your child, definitely give us a call at 312-939-3513. We are always here, happy to help. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. So yeah, definitely give us a call.